Hey everyone. So I'm one of the discussion topic leaders. So let's kind of dive into it, bearing in mind that I'm looking at it from probably a different perspective than a lot of the students in this class, given that, as you can tell by the hair, I'm considerably older than most folks. So I always had a respect for the ancients. And both last week and especially this week, I have a whole new respect for the ancients, and I kind of almost disagree with some of the suggested questions because given the limitations in terms of instrumentation, mathematics, I consider what they were able to do to be extremely impressive. And I some of the things that I guess you know but don't really know is how much they were building on the works of others. The site where the reading talks about how Ptolemy and some of the others, they're always citing other people's work. I mean, A, it's impressive that they did that. B, and probably more importantly, given that there are so many works cited we don't have, I think it's hard for me to be too critical of the fact that they didn't get everything right because, frankly, there may have been other authors who did. As a matter of fact, I think it's probably a good bet there were. Perhaps with time, we'll discover some of those things, and of course, we may never know. So I'm going to kind of start with a little opinion, then I'll get a little more into some of the later readings. But I think there's some lessons learned for modern society from this. So once I appreciate the fact that the celestial sphere works equally well, whether the Earth's the center of the solar system or the sun, um, from predicting the constellations and what have you, I am less critical of them. Yeah, I definitely think probably the obvious, hey, the planets were enough of an outlier that maybe they could have done more with it. But then I think to our current day discussions and where we're trying to understand the universe and we're talking about dark matter and dark energy and it may be the math explains it needs those sorts of things, but is it really that different than planets in the celestial sphere, dark matter, and our observations of the universe? And so there's a thought question for you. So continuing on, I think the very fact that the building of the Tower of the Winds, and of course, this text tends to be very Greek centric, but even a superficial knowledge of history tells you that many societies build structures to help them understand the times of year, how to tell time, and what have you. I think it's fair to say they devoted a significant amount of resource to astronomy, and it actually has me thinking that perhaps um, we don't do enough astronomy in our elementary and junior high because you don't need integrals and differential equations to understand astronomy. When being taught geometry, um, I think it's would be more appreciable and more understandable to people if we threw in the example of the ancients and how it was used to give people some perspective. Then we get in the reading, and I'm sorry about the interruption, but Roosevelt here, one of my dogs wanted to come say hi. Where Vertruvius, and I probably butchered that name horribly, talks about the lack of attention given to scientists and the astronomers of the day versus athletes, and the Evans notes, and I think it's very appropriate. Hey, that still goes on today. Um, there are times I wonder if we're spending too much money on astronomy and space exploration, and then I think about how much money we spend on Taylor Swift concerts, and I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'm okay. Uh, so it's, I guess some things never change, right? Um, the Astrolab, boy, that. I'm having trouble fully understanding how it works. I trust that the math and the diagrams, they give me an idea, but it kind of reminds me of my days of youth when there were some things I understood very well, and I'm frankly looking forward to the project as a part of this class because I'll get to a second why I think it'll relate. But um, in my day, when I was doing my engineering, there was no such thing as a CAD software program, so I had to learn how to use a T square and all the other instruments for manual drawing. And I, on the other hand, calculators had gotten to the point when I got to college, but not high school, where you were allowed to bring them into class and you can use them. So I never learned how to use a slide rule. And I wonder if there were times I had a lot of trouble with integrals and differential equations, and maybe if I'd learned the mechanics of the slide rule, I would have understood it better. Whereas I can tell you in life, because I understood very well how to do a drawing with the manual implements, using CAD software was a piece of cake to me. So maybe we as a society should spend a little more time teaching these basic instruments before we go straight to the automated. It gives the human mind, I don't know, I think a better way to absorb the information and learning and the why things go together versus just that they do. Um, so that's another bit from Bach, if you will. And I just leave that as my other thought on this. When talking about the maps, and that's more on the reading guide than the reading, because the reading really only superficially talked about how you use the astrolabe and you project it to map creation. I think probably astronomy's number one issue is how do you take the unimaginable, because the distance to the stars are so far, and it's I don't think reasonable in any way to expect the ancients to have been able to fathom the concept of light years, right? So I don't, given that there was a lot of other sciences that had to come along, I don't know that astronomy, even if they worked out a few things about sun centric and what have you, they didn't have a driving societal need because they weren't trying to launch spaceships. And the accuracy of their instrumentation was just never going to allow them to truly fathom the vastness of the universe. And I still struggle with that. And the more I learn as the years go by, the more I realize how much I understood the math but didn't appreciate the concept. So, enough of that. Let me know what you think, what I got right about the reading, what you think I got wrong. Looking forward to seeing it. Roosevelt, anything you want to add? Nah. Bye.